Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Liverpool extend their lead at the top of the Premier League table, thrashing Arsenal at Anfield. What did Arsenal do wrong? Where did Liverpool go right? Don't worry, here are the interviews. We've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to briefly break down how Liverpool destroyed Arsenal. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're basically going to break down what Liverpool did right in the first half, how Arsenal were able to find routes to goal, and why Arsenal struggled throughout the entire game. But first, let's get to the starting lineups. We look at Liverpool, more of a 4-2-3-1. Salah ahead of Firmino, out in the wider areas, Shaqiri and Mane, and in midfield, they went with Fabinho and Wijnaldum. Then we get to Arsenal, more of a 4-4-1-1. A lot of injuries, a lot of absentees. They went with Aubameyang up front ahead of Aaron Ramsey. Out in the wider areas, Maitland-Niles and Iwobi, and in midfield, Tyrrell and Xhaka. So now, let's look how both sides look to approach the game in the first half and where Liverpool found their advantages against Arsenal. So unfortunately for the neutrals, this game was over in the first half. First, we're going to look at Arsenal, see what they did right. They started to press from the front. They wanted to close down Liverpool, and initially it made sense. Liverpool are going to try to play it out the back. You have Ramsey. You end up having Aubameyang looking to press the front too. You have Iwobi and Maitland-Niles who are looking to close down. And Liverpool had some issues in the earlier stages trying to play out of that press. But once Fabinho started to drop in between the center backs, then you have a problem because it's 3v2. Arsenal's original shape was they did a very good job down the right-hand side. Maitland-Niles always stuck tight to Lichtsteiner. Yes, they got beaten on a few occasions, but for the most part, Lichtsteiner proves to be a liability at this level given his age. And with Maitland-Niles there, we didn't see much of Robertson. We'll get to that in a bit to see who won that battle. On the left-hand side, Arsenal had some issues based on the fact that Iwobi was tucking in because what Liverpool's wider players were doing was that they were dropping off deep. Shaqiri was looking to get the ball with his feet. Mane was looking to get the ball, and they were looking to get it on the outsides of Tyrrell and Xhaka, so that creates an overload. It doesn't help that Firmino's dropping off deeper as well to get on the ball, and you have Salah playing off the last shoulder. So that is one of the bigger problems that they had, was that there was a midfield overload, and they were pulling Arsenal players out of position. So with Iwobi then tucked in to ensure that Shaqiri, or trying to ensure that Shaqiri couldn't really cause much of a havoc in those center positions, it does create an avenue for Alexander-Arnold to push forward. So that was one of the issues that they were having. But in terms of the pressing, that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to close down from the front. We expect that from Emery. But what happened here was that with Fabinho dropping off deeper, they had a bit of an issue. Obviously, when you look at it, if Aubameyang steps forward, you want Ramsey to push into Fabinho to ensure that he doesn't get on the ball, and vice versa. If they go the other way, and if Ramsey steps forward, they want Aubameyang to sit. But that can't happen throughout the entire game. Eventually, you need someone to drop in. And even when there was a time where they had Wijnaldum drop off a bit deeper, they would try and get the two players in Ramsey and Aubameyang to sit on them. Van Dijk and Lovren were more than capable of spreading play. So Arsenal had some issues there, and they weren't pressing well as a unit. So even at times when it was 2v1 or 3v2, they weren't really closing Liverpool out in positions that they wanted to. They couldn't really afford to have Xhaka and Tyrrell step forward. They eventually did have Xhaka step forward, but even with Xhaka stepping forward and you have the three, you still have a midfield overload because Wijnaldum could drop deeper, and we saw that. And then you still have the wider players and Firmino dropping in. So Liverpool always had an outlet to play out, and it didn't make sense for Arsenal to kind of press off a bit, sit off. If they want Wijnaldum and they want Fabinho to get on, if they want Wijnaldum and Fabinho to be pressed out of the game, that's fine. Let Van Dijk and Lovren play out of the back, force them to make mistakes. But they weren't doing that. They were looking to press from the front, and they never really did cause Liverpool some threats, although it did lead to the first goal, which is coincidental as it could be. Was it intended? Was it a Liverpool mistake? Well, Alisson plays the ball out to Lovren. You initially have Ramsey step to him. What happens now is that you have Fabinho drop off. And with the ball played to Fabinho, you eventually have Aubameyang step to him. So with that being said, now the ball is cleared. Kolasinac is able to win it, and he nods it into Arnold, who then plays it into Ramsey. With Arnold playing it into Ramsey, he's able to run. With Iwobi playing it into Ramsey, he's able to bypass Arnold, and then with Lovren stepping, he's able to bypass Lovren to play it back to Iwobi. With that being said, now Aubameyang is holding off Van Dijk, and you have Maitland-Niles already, once the ball was won, running past Robertson. When the cross is played in, it bypasses Fabinho and it bypasses Van Dijk, and it falls to Maitland-Niles, and he finishes superbly. But when you think about it, Maitland-Niles was the key player for Arsenal throughout the first half. He looked promising in that role. He protected Lichtsteiner, and he forced Robertson into several issues. We look to one of them where you have Shaqiri and you have Fabinho on that left-hand side. This is when Shaqiri and Mane switch for a bit. Mustafi steps forward, and he plays a pass into Maitland-Niles. Now, what happens there is that Maitland-Niles drops it off to Lichtsteiner. When he drops it off to Lichtsteiner, what happens there is that Shaqiri doesn't track when he should, and the ball is now played into that space as Maitland-Niles runs off Robertson to get the ball and delivers a cross into the box that eventually is cleared. We had Ramsey switch the ball out to Maitland-Niles. This is when Robertson was off the field for a bit due to an injury, and he runs at Fabinho and he runs at Mane, and he lets the overlapping Lichtsteiner get forward and plays him in. Again, the cross is cleared, but you're seeing Maitland-Niles get into good positions. He eventually got Robertson booked when he dropped the ball off to Lichtsteiner. Shaqiri pressed him, and when the ball was clipped over, he was able to spin off Robertson, and Robertson was forced to pull him down. You look to another opportunity, Tyrrell clipping the ball out to Iwobi. Iwobi's not closed. Fabinho steps to him. What we now see is that once Fabinho steps to him, the ball is played to Aubameyang, who back heels it into the path of Maitland-Niles. Robertson sits off once again, and what happens there is that when Wijnaldum steps forward, it looks like he's going to turn that way, he turns the opposite way, but he fires his shot over the net. The final opportunity that we do see from Maitland-Niles is a throw-in into Ramsey, and what Ramsey ends up doing is he ends up scooping the ball into that right channel for Maitland-Niles, but again, his cross, although he gets into a great position, cleared by Arnold. Maitland-Niles was getting into good positions. Arsenal's pressing wasn't that great. It eventually did lead to their goal, but there wasn't enough from them. They weren't able to really cope with that Liverpool overload, and their pressing didn't lead to many chances. They struggled to create chances from open play. Aubameyang was isolated. They couldn't get the midfield going. So with that being said, now let's get to Liverpool, see what they did right and how they were able to really push the pedal onto Arsenal in the first half. When we get to Liverpool, it's interesting to see how they were going to look to try and stop Arsenal. We know Arsenal are renowned for playing out of the back. We've seen them do it on countless occasions under Unai Emery. But how would Liverpool approach it? Haven't really pressed from the front this season, but in the opening stage, they looked like they were eager to do that, forcing Arsenal into a few mistakes. The first one stems from a Socrates back pass. You see Salah step to him. You have Firmino instantly step to the keeper. You have Mane push to Lichtsteiner, and Lichtsteiner eventually gave the ball away. Another opportunity where we saw their pressing come into work was when the center backs split out into their position, into wider positions. You had Salah and Mane push out to them. You had Xhaka drop off and Firmino step to him, and Leno eventually cleared the ball out, not by choice, but he eventually just kicked it out because he had nowhere else to really go. That was how Liverpool were looking to press from the front. They had Salah and Mane on the center backs pushing out wide. They had Firmino dropping off in between Xhaka and Tyrrell, who did drop off. With that being said, we've seen this in the past, Arsenal against City, where you had the two, earlier on the season, you had Bernardo Silva and Gundogan sit in between the midfielder that is trying to or the forward that is trying to step forward and press, and they were able to bypass that there. Here, Arsenal weren't looking to do that. They were wary of making a mistake. They weren't confident in their ability to play out of the back, and at some occasions we did see Fabinho step in as well. With Lichtsteiner dropping off a bit deeper, what would happen there was that we would eventually see Robertson step to him. Shaqiri would push out on the other side to Kolasinac, and they were closed down in those areas, and Arsenal never really looked confident building out of the back. For the most part, Liverpool never really had to drop off into a base shape of their 4-5-1. We did see them move often into two banks of four, and why they did that was because it was integral that they ensured that Xhaka and Tyrrell couldn't get on the ball, and that was one of their key elements into how they were looking to stop or neutralize Arsenal's attack, because when they did allow the center backs to get on the ball, you would have Firmino and Salah sit ahead of them. You would have, on the flip side, you'd have Fabinho and Wijnaldum stepping there as well. Now you have a box, and they can't play through it. You have Ramsey a bit higher. You can't find service into him, and that was one of their big issues throughout the game, was that they were unable to really build attacks from central areas. With Salah and Firmino there, you're blocking off the passing into the two central midfielders. With Wijnaldum and Fabinho stepping forward, you can't play passes into them, and you could see them swarming. Mane was swarming, trying to get on the ball. Shaqiri on occasions. They were ensuring that they couldn't play those passes into those zones, and they wanted to force them to play it into those zones so that they could swarm, press, and then break on the counterattack. That was key, and we saw that in the build-up to one of the goals that we'll get to in a bit. But when we look to some of the chances that they did create prior to the goal, Liverpool, it did go to show what they were trying to do. You have the wide players, like I said, in Shaqiri and in Mane, dropping off to the either side of Tyrrell and Xhaka to ensure that there is an overload. You have Firmino already dropping off as well. So you're already there. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 5 players against 3. And that was how Liverpool were able to interchange fluidly and able to get on the ball and bypass Arsenal's midfield. We saw it in the earlier stages, and this is a great example right here where you have Wijnaldum and Fabinho dropping off. You have Ramsey push out to Wijnaldum. And what happens now is that it allows Fabinho to push forward. It instantly, what you see Mane drop off to the side of Tyrrell. Ball played into him. He instantly plays it back to Fabinho. From there, you have Salah making the run across Kolasinac, but then you have Iwobi tucked in, and you have Alexander-Arnold pushing forward. Diagonal played over, just slightly overhit. Well, you saw Mane pull a marker out. You saw Salah make the run, with Shaqiri dropping in and tucking in. It forced Iwobi in, and that was one of the issues that they did have. And Arnold was able to push forward, but the ball was hit a bit too hard, and they were unable to get that. Another opportunity that we did see that play stem through was when Mane had dropped off to Tyrrell and Xhaka dropped off ahead of Shaqiri dropped off ahead of Xhaka. Ball played into Mane, who steps ahead. He plays it into Xhaka. From there, what we do see is we see Wijnaldum, who played the initial pass, run off Lichtsteiner. Shaqiri instantly locates the run, plays it into him. Leno sees it quickly and nods the ball out of danger. That, again, pulling markers out, looking for the runner. It wasn't Salah this time, it was Wijnaldum, who was a direct runner, making the run across, and that nearly led to a goal scoring opportunity. When you think about how they were pulling markers out and then running and bypassing them, you see Fabinho step forward again, no press on him. You have Mane push out, step ahead of Tyrrell, ball played into him. He's able to turn Tyrrell, run at Lichtsteiner, skip past him into the box. Mustafi is able to come across to track the run. His pullback hits off a marker. It falls to Firmino, who fires a shot off Salah, and it goes wide. But in those elements, you get to see what Liverpool are trying to do. They're pressing from the front, forcing Arsenal into issues. They were dropping their wider players into deeper positions to check in for the ball, having runners pull out and run in behind. And then from the other aspect, they were ensuring that there weren't passes played into the central midfielders, and they had their runners from deeper positions turn and run at goal. So when we get to the goals, we understand how Liverpool were able to create them based on the chances that arise in the earlier stages of the match. We look to the first one. That's Firmino again dropping off a bit deeper, picking up the ball, being allowed to carry it, sliding it to Socrates, sliding it to Shaqiri. You have Kolasinac step to him, and then he plays it back out to him, and Tyrrell steps, and he's able to cut in on Tyrrell and move centrally. What happens there is that Salah now moves into that space in between Socrates and Kolasinac, is able to bypass Xhaka to get the ball to Salah. Now you're in danger because what happens is now Salah is able to run and he's able to cut in on Socrates with Tyrrell driving in, but Tyrrell's slide tackle allows the ball to fall into the path of Lichtsteiner, who clears the ball off Mustafi, and Leno's out of position and Firmino's able to tap the ball into the net. Yes, it was a bit fortuitous, but it goes to show the issues that Arsenal did encounter, not stepping to Firmino, for runners being able to bypass their midfield and not being able to clear their lines, being nervy around the box. The second goal just goes to emphasize that point. We saw Mane do it earlier on, now we saw Firmino, but what was one of the key things here was that we saw them trying to swarm Tyrrell and Xhaka throughout. They finally got Tyrrell here. What happens? Ramsey plays the ball back to Tyrrell. You see Firmino and Mane get really close to him. As they get closer, Mane is able to dispossess him. Who gets the ball? Firmino, able to cut in on Socrates, cut in on Mustafi, and fire a shot that leaves Leno questioning where he was supposed to be. Beats them 2-1 within 2 minutes. Liverpool are rocking. The final goal kind of sums up everything. We see Alisson. We kind of see what Alisson was bought for. One of his key strengths, getting the ball instantly, clipping it out to the right channel after catching Iwobi's cross. Flies to Firmino, was able to run at the center backs. As he runs at the center backs, Salah makes a run in between them to get the ball in behind Socrates, who recovers well, but who can't cope with Salah 1v1. Salah skips by him, and Socrates is forced to foul him. Salah converts the penalty. The Mane goal, when you look at it, it was a defensive switch off. That should have never happened. Emery would be upset with that. And then when you get to the second half, you do have Koscielny come on, but when you break it down as a whole, nothing really changed. We saw some nice movement from Salah, and Shaqiri should have led to a chance, but Salah's touch was a bit heavy. Leno came out. We saw Salah and Fabinho combine. Fabinho shot at the near post was saved. Then eventually Arsenal concede another penalty after Henderson comes on when Liverpool were looking to shut things down. He concedes the penalty. Firmino converts for the hat-trick, and the game was pretty much over there. So when you break it down as a whole, you see what Liverpool try to do: pull markers out of position, get runners in behind, ensure that Arsenal center midfielders couldn't get on the ball, press from the front, force them into nervy moments, and allow their attack to really flow by overloading those central areas, and Arsenal just couldn't cope with it. Perhaps it was the injuries. Regardless, you could see the difference between the two sides. Liverpool built to win the title now. Arsenal in the early stages of trying to get to that status. But let me know what you guys think. Is anyone going to stop Liverpool? Are they favorites to win the Premier League title now? And what about Arsenal? Not a good festive period for them thus far. Are their top 4 hopes sliding away from them? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the interviews.